Good evening and welcome to the Thai PBS World tonight. China passes national security law in Hong Kong just a day after Hong Kong returned to China 23 years ago. This move follows widening unrest and growing pro-democracy movement. What's the implication of this law? Thai PBS World tonight, Khun Thep Chaiyong and me talk to Dr. Am Tangniran from Faculty of Law, Chulalongkorn University.
Of course, it was no surprise that the Standing Committee of the National People Congress passed the national security law for Hong Kong. But what was interesting was that they chose to do it just a day before the 23rd anniversary of the return of Hong Kong to China. So you think other part of China, they were trying to send out some signal with this?
Well, I think that they try to send out a very strong signal to Thep Chai. And actually, we all know that normally on the 1st of July, there will be mass protests and mass demonstration in Hong Kong from the pro-democracy movement. This year is quite different because the government of Hong Kong actually banned all protests using the rationale of COVID-19 and the risks of mass demonstrations. So right now in Hong Kong, you cannot gather people more than 50 people. Add to that is the promulgation of this new law, which will take into effect tomorrow. And then this law, interestingly, will also send a very strong signal that they don't want any mass demonstrations or protests happening tomorrow.
And Dr. Am, what do you think is the implication of one country, two system? Because in fact, Hong Kong is still under one country, two system. It just returned to China for only 23 years. What's the effect of national security law on one country, two system?
So there are different views. If you listen to the Beijing government, they will say that actually they already give Hong Kong 23 years for passing a national security law. The last attempt was in 2003 when the national legislature within Hong Kong tried to pass the law, but it encountered mass protests from the pro-democracy movement. And from 2003 up until right now, they failed to pass the national security law, which in fact actually was the duties of the Hong Kong's legislature to pass this law according to Hong Kong's basic law. But from the pro-democracy side, they will say that actually the passing of the national security law should be the area within the responsibility of the Hong Kong's legislature and not of the Beijing's legislature. But what the Chinese government is doing now is that the Beijing's legislature, they pass the national security law and they will add it into Annex 3 of the basic law. And so by passing the Hong Kong's legislature and then make this law take it into effect immediately after its promulgation tomorrow in Hong Kong.
With the passing of the law, do you think there's a possibility of these people going back to the streets to fight against it? Because some of the key leaders, including Joshua Wong, have said they are quitting their political movements so that they will go back to fight their own private ways.
Up until now, even with the news of its passing, we still don't see the full text of the law. No one has seen the full text of the law. So even Carrie Lam today in her press conference, press briefing in Hong Kong, she said that she herself hasn't seen the full text of the law yet. And according to the news, tomorrow the Beijing government will hold its own press conference to brief the press on this law, which will take into effect tomorrow immediately. So yes, I think that it signifies the strong reaction from Beijing's government against the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong. And also, I think that it will slow down any movement tomorrow, any mass protest tomorrow, because even right now, people are still not sure what will happen if they go on the streets. Because even right now, I think that people don't really know for sure what's in the law.
อาจารย์ Hong Kong is known as having independent judicial system, but under this law, does it mean the end of the judicial system independence in Hong Kong?
So according to Carrie Lam, and when she answered this question, in many instances, she has assured the Hong Kong people that most of the things on the law will be processed within Hong Kong. I mean, the Hong Kong judiciary will still be the main press of considering any cases under the law. However, there will be a small portion of cases that will be under Beijing's authority. And what's tricky right now is that we still don't really know for sure what are the conditions that have to be met for cases to be transferred to Beijing. So right now, a lot of analysis suggests that there's a portion of cases, not the majority of cases. The majority of cases will still be tried in Hong Kong, but there will be a portion of very serious cases that when meet with the specified conditions will be transferred to Beijing's authority. And right now, we also know that the penalty for people who break this law can go up to life imprisonment or life sentence. So that's also a signal that this law is really harsh, especially on those pro-democracy protesters.
That's it. China went ahead and implement this law despite threats from Western countries with political and economic sanctions. So that only goes to show that China doesn't really care about the threats from the Western countries and looks like it's prepared to deal with any consequences.
I think that China, the mainland China, has calculated that what could possibly be the worst case from Western sanctions against the law. And I think that if there are any Western sanctions, and it depends on how far it can go, but it can be very, very bad for Hong Kong, very, very bad for American and Western businesses in Hong Kong, but not too bad for mainland China. Mainland China's economy, mainland China's businesses, because actually right now the size of Hong Kong's economy is not actually that significant if we compare to the size of the mainland Chinese economy as a whole. Well, I think that it will have immense impact on businesses, and especially Western businesses in Hong Kong. Right now, I think the first thing that we need to look at is what will be the U.S. response towards this official passing of the law. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has tweeted in his Twitter account that he will have a strong reaction, and the U.S. will have strong reaction upon the passing of this law by the Beijing government. But even up until now, we see a lot of harsh words, but not a lot of actions. So we have to see how these harsh critics from the West and from the US will translate into concrete sanctions and concrete reactions against Hong Kong's economy and Hong Kong businesses.
And tomorrow we will know the full details of the national security law in Hong Kong. And that's all from Thai PBS World tonight. Thank you very much for watching.